In the last few videos, we've been looking at how to chant psalms, and we started out with this psalm, Psalm number 1, which we went through and first of all pointed, and that's what these accent marks are for. Those are the accented syllables in the song, which we then use to match up to certain notes in our chanting. That's a really quick summary of something that it took several videos to flesh out. So if you haven't watched the previous videos on what this is about, I would encourage you to stop this video and go watch those before you get here. But now that we've kind of looked at one particular psalm tone, we chanted this psalm to the psalm tone 2, because I picked that one because I think it's the easiest one, frankly. We want to start expanding our knowledge into some of the other psalm tones. So today we're going to look at the 7th psalm tone. I'm not doing this in order because I'm trying to go in order of increasing complexity. And the 7th psalm tone is not that bad. So if you Google the 7th psalm tone, you are likely to come up with something like this. So just to really quickly explain what this is before I show you a sort of a simplified version, which let me get ready to put up. This is the introit or the introduction. These notes correspond to the first few syllables of the first line. We will talk about that more as we go on. This tenor and flex. Well, the tenor is the reciting tone. This is what the majority of our psalm is not said to or said on, but sung on, is this note. The flex is just a way to get a little fancy. I'm not doing flexes in any of these videos. Basically, flexes are really useful. That's not true. Useful is the wrong word. Flexes are appropriate when you have really long lines and you want to put a little variation into the lines. They are somewhat complex and not everybody does them, so for that reason I'm just basically leaving them out. And then we come to the mediant. The mediant is the ending of the first phrase. So our psalter is going to be divided into basically rhymed couplets. One line and then another line. The first line is going to have the ending here. That's our mediant. And then we have the reciting tone again for the second line. From there, we move to one of these endings. Now, on the previous psalm, we did 2 endings. Both of them were reasonably similar. Every psalm tone, that's not true. Most psalm tones have more than one ending. It is not at all required to do all of the endings and to master all of the endings. All you really need to chant the psalms is one psalm tone and one ending. Simpler is better. But if you have mastered psalm tone 1 and you're looking for something new, some variety, this is where we go. So our first task is to pick out one of these endings to do. We've already said we're going to get rid of the flex. We're just going to do the introduction, the tenor, and the mediant in our first phrase, the tenor and the termination or the ending in our second phrase. If I just scan through these A, B, C, C2, and D, also called first ending, second ending, third ending, so long and so forth. B, or the second ending, looks like it's going to be the simplest, and so that's what we're going to focus on. So what I've done is just on my computer, I've taken some screenshots of these and put them in, edited to take out what I don't need, and I've come up with this. So basically, the introduction, the tenor, and the mediant ends here. Here is where my first phrase ends. You recognize this as the tenor just like it is here. This is our reciting tone for the second part, and then this is the ending. So I've just cut and pasted all of this together to go right from the introduction to the first phrase, and I should put a little asterisk here, and the reciting tone to the ending here. So this is tone 7, ending 2, or ending B, depending on where you look. This may or may not be labeled as one of those. You get into some different standards. A lot of people have done a lot of different endings and different flexes, and so it's To say this is standardized would be a mistake. It's not standardized, but that's okay. Part of what we do here is try to learn how to decipher all of that. And again, we're going to keep in our minds that if we don't do it exactly like somebody else does it, that's okay, because the point of this is not some musicological exercise. It's to increase our devotion. And if it does that, then we're going to call that a good day. So this is what I'm going to be working with. Tone 7 and second ending. So when I look at this, I notice immediately in each of these phrases the presence of 2 accents. That is different than the Psalm tone 2 that we did. Psalm tone 2 just had 1 accent. Psalm tone 7 has 2 accents. Many of the psalm tones will have 2 accents. So again, we started out with Psalm tone 2 because it was simple. We're getting a little bit more complex. So the first thing we need to do after we have picked our psalm tone and ending is go and make sure we have the right amount of accented syllables. I've only done 1 per line here. I need to do the next most previous accent, the penultimate accent, if you will. I'll just tell you, when I'm pointing a song or pointing a psalm, I do the last 2 accents just at the beginning. So I don't know whether I'm going to pick a tone that has 1 accent or 2 accents. Just to be safe, I always, as I'm going through at the first and pointing a psalm, pick out the last 2 accents. So this accent, which we've noticed, is on the, we'll say this is the ultimate accent. Ultimate meaning last. We're going to use the word ultimate and penultimate, and that can get a little tedious to say a lot. And it can also get confusing because notice this is not the last syllable, it's the second to last syllable. So the ultimate accent is on the penultimate syllable. So if your head is spinning, that's okay, join the club. There's lots of terminology we kind of have to wrap our minds around. But if we're not talking about syllables right now, we're just talking about accents. This would be the ultimate accent. I need to find the penultimate accent. So I'm going to do that just by saying it. Blessed is the man who has not walked in the counsel of the ungodly. Counsel of the ungodly. Counsel of the ungodly is how I say it. So it sounds to me like the penultimate accent is on counsel. Some people might say counsel of the ungodly. I don't like accenting articles like this. It's certainly okay if you want to do it. I just prefer not to. So the issue I see here, it's going to be possibly an issue that this accent is so far away from this one. That's 1, 2, 3, 4 syllables away. That's a little far, but we're going to go with it and see what happens. Okay, let's do the next one. Nor stood in the way of sinners, and has not sat in the seat of the scornful. Seat of the scornful, how I'm going to say that. His delight is in the law of the Lord. Law of the Lord. And on his law will he meditate day and night. Day and night. And he shall be like a tree planted by the waterside. Planted by the waterside is how I say that. I'm going to put an accent here. Planted by the waterside. That will bring forth his fruit in due season. So on this one, fruit in due season, I'm going to try it on due. This might create some awkwardness with the accents so close together, but we'll see what happens. If it's too awkward, we can always change it. My other option would be fruit in due season, or fruit in due season. Fruit in due season is putting an accent here. Fruit in due season is putting an accent here. Let's leave it like this. If we decide we want to change it, we can. That's part of the beauty here, right? Nobody's grading this. Please don't submit these to me. I'm not going to grade them. I have enough of that in my normal job. So we're just going to see what happens. And if we don't like it, we can change it. His leaf also shall not wither. Shall not wither. And look, whatever he does, it shall prosper. I've got does, it shall prosper. As for the ungodly, it is not so with them. It is not so with them. but they are like the chaff which the wind scatters away from the face of the earth. Therefore the ungodly shall not be able to stand in the judgment. I've got stand in the judgment. Neither the sinners in the congregation of the righteous. Congregation of the righteous. This is another one where I've got 1, 2, 3. I've got 3 syllables between these two. This is a little far away, but that's okay. Like I said, so this one, due season, might be a little close. This one might be a little far. This one is definitely a little far. So what that means is it might create a little bit of awkwardness when we're singing, but we'll figure out how to deal with that. And like I said, for all of these, if it doesn't work, we can change it. For the Lord knows the way of the righteous. I've got way of the righteous. But the way of the ungodly shall perish. Ungodly. So as I mentioned on the previous video about pointing, which syllable you accent depends on a few things. And, you know, we'd love it if we were all on the same page, but we all have different, well, accents. So you might be putting emphasis on syllables where I'm not, and that's okay. This should be comfortable for you. If, you know, there's some choices which I think are probably bad choices. There are some choices which I think are good choices. But there are also some choices which can go either way as far as the pointing. But this is what I have, and so I'm going to go with this in the next few videos while we learn to chant this. Again, if we decide that it doesn't work, we can change some things. So I would encourage you, even if you don't agree with my pointing, to follow along with this in the next few videos. And then if you decide your way is better, go back and do this process with yours and just match it up. So my purpose in the next few videos is to learn with you how to match up this pointing to a particular tone. And hopefully in that process, you'll see how to do it with your pointing if you don't like mine. All right, see you in the next video.